Hi everyone. A very good evening to all of you. How are you all? Hello Nigesh. Yes, this is the second session for the day. Okay, so let us talk about our seventh session of VRC gym. So now in case you haven't been following this series, you can watch the previous sessions in the playlist, right? We have talked about some good RCs, right? We have discussed practice some good RCs. Today also I have an RC passage for you, and we also have had a couple of VA sessions, right? So do see the playlist and practice questions from there, right? Okay, then let us see. Some of you are here. Okay. All right. So, should we begin? If you have any queries before that, you can just discuss. Hello, S. All right. Okay, then. So, the passage that I have got today is an interdisciplinary passage. What does that mean? Interdisciplinary. Just break the word. Inter, between disciplines. So, basically, it spans across multiple disciplines. Okay, it's an interesting read. You will enjoy reading it. And then we have some good critical reasoning based questions. Okay, so the way we will go about it is that we will first read the passage and attempt the questions. If you want, I can even withhold the answers from you and then tell you all the answers at a stretch, whichever way you would like. Or we can discuss all the questions at a stretch. What would you prefer? Tell me. Okay, good evening, Ritik. So let's do this, that you will read the RC first, okay? Then you attempt the questions without my explaining the passage. First you attempt. Then we discuss the passage. Okay? And then I reveal, or wait, I can reveal the answers at least. Just reveal the answers, all the answers at a stretch. Okay? And then we discuss the passage and the questions in depth. That's what we will do. Okay, perfect. Hello, Buxy uncle. Hello, Neelu, Rajarshi. Good to see you. Took a mock today. That's amazing, Rajarshi. That's amazing. That means you have now realized that VARC is your strength. Okay. So capitalize on this strength. Improve. Keep on improving on it. Okay. All right. So here's your passage. First, read this passage. Okay. And then I will show the questions to you. So I'm giving you 4 good minutes to read this passage. ठीक है? काफ़ी time है. आराम से पढ़ो. Okay. Read it carefully. Start. Have we finished? Give me a yes, no. Okay, I am assuming now that you have finished. Perfect. Neelu is saying yes, S has said yes. So now let's come to the questions. Okay, 90 seconds per question. Again, I'm timing you. Attempt it and I will reveal the answers to you at the end. Okay, so do it like a test. Go. Done. You can start typing in your responses. Okay. Okay, do you want to type the answers also towards the end? We can do that as well. All right, let's do that. Go to second question. Okay, I hope you have found out one answer, narrowed down to one answer for this one as well. Okay, some of you are also typing in, that's okay. Let's go to the third one. Done? Let's... Done. Let's go to the next question. Okay, have you done the fourth question? Okay, just have your responses as a way of knowing whether you've done this or not. Yes, okay. So then I'm just showing the third question again to Simran. Simran, please attempt this. All right, done. Perfect. So now let me just reveal the answers to you, and then we'll have a detailed discussion, okay, as to why these are the answers after understanding the passage, of course. So what does this phrase imply? This was the question. Now the answer to this is option B, right? Option B is the answer. I think you could have got confused between B and C here, so we will discuss. Okay, then which of the so basically the argument itself, this statement itself is given to you, okay, and now we had to seriously undermine the author's position that dismissing these trials is intellectually limiting. So if you show there that they were not really stimulating the intellect in the first place. They were not stimulating the intellect in the first place. In that case, you have undermined this. You have weakened this. Okay. Then, now see, this question is a layered question. Yes? All of the following, if false, would strengthen Anila Srivastava's assertion that pre-enlightenment animal trials reveal unexpected sophistication in legal thought. So this is the assertion, except. So all of the following, if false, would strengthen this assertion, except. So what you can do is, to simplify this, change this to if true and when you put an if true, you have to put a not here. So all of the following if true would not strengthen Anila Srivastava's assertion except. ठीक है, मतलब कि 3 इनमें से strengthen नहीं कर रही हैं. That's what this means. No, it is a simple strengthening the argument question. A very simple strengthening the argument question. You have to find out what is strengthening. What is strengthening? Okay, Anila Srivastava's argument. Okay, so which one would you say is strengthening her argument? It is actually option B. Okay, and the last one, the last question, the fourth question, we had to strengthen this line of reasoning, that it was meant as a political ritual rather than genuine efforts at deterrence. So the answer here is B. Okay, so now you know the answers. Now let's understand this passage, then let's discuss the questions as to why these are the answers. Okay, and you can also tell me when we discuss the questions what all you marked. Okay, so let's proceed this way. This is like a mini test for you, right? You just attempted a mini topic test. Okay, so let's see. If you were an animal in need of legal representation in early 16th century Burgundy, a place, a horse that, so now we have examples, for example, okay, a horse that had trampled its owner. So an animal in need of legal representation, it feels weird, right? कि animal को भी अपना legally case लड़ना है. Okay, but 16th century में possible था. A horse that had trampled, stepped on its owner. A sow, okay, that had attacked the farmer's son. So a female pig that had attacked the farmer's son. So now she wanted representation. She wanted somebody to fight her case. Then the best lawyer in the realm was Barthélemy de, okay, whichever way this is pronounced, Chassaneus. Okay, he is most remembered for winning an acquittal on behalf of a group of rats put on trial for eating through the province's barley crop in 1522. So very interesting start, isn't it? So these rats were put on trial and he actually got them acquitted, meaning they were not punished. ठीक है, जबकि उन्होंने पूरे province का barley crop खा लिया था. Imagine. Edward Payson Evans, an American linguist whose book The Criminal Persecution and Capital Punishment of Animals remains the standard work on the subject, explains that Chassaneus was forced to employ all sorts of legal shifts and chicane. What is chicane? Have you heard this term, chicanery? Yes. So chicanery is basically trickery, okay, deception, धोखाधड़ी. ठीक है, बहुत ट्रिकरी से, मतलब ऐसे आर्ग्यूमेंट्स देना जो डिसेप्टिव हों. डिलेटरी प्लीज, ओके, सो ही केप्ट ऑन डीलेइंग. डिलेटरी मीन्स मेंट टू डिले. Okay, so he kept on delaying the trial, imagine, and other technical objections. All of this he did for the rats, including the argument that the rats could not be forced to take the stand. Okay, so rats को हम नहीं ला सकते हैं कोर्ट में because their lives were at risk from the feral cats in the town of Otun. तो अगर हम उन्हें लाए ये feral cats ढूंढ के खा जाएंगी. Okay, so it all sounds funny. Hoping, what was he hoping? He was hoping thereby to find some loophole in the meshes of the law through which the accused might escape. Like, well, rats. So do you see there, the author is also being humorous at places. If I asked you a tone question based on this sentence, yes, what is the tone? It is humorous, that they could escape the meshes. What's a mesh? Jali ko mesh कहते हैं, right? So they could find some loophole in the meshes of the law through which the accused might escape, like, well, rats. They were found not guilty. Okay, so the author is ultimately telling us that this was the result. So now comes this was the context, this was the background. Now comes the main point of the passage. Dismissing animal trials as just another backwards practice of a primitive time is to our intellectual detriment. Not only because it imposes a pernicious presentism on the past, but also because it is worth considering whether or not the broader implications of such a ritual. Now, do you see the sentence is just continuing, khatam hi nahi ho raha, right? So break it. सो बेसिकली सबसे पहला पार्ट ये वाला कंसिडर करेंगे हम कि अगर हम ये मान रहे हैं कि अरे ये तो बहुत ही बैकवर्ड प्रैक्टिस थी जो हो रही थी 16th सेंचुरी में और हम इसको डिसमिस कर दें आज ये बोल के दैट दिस वाज सच अ बैकवर्ड प्रैक्टिस ऑफ अ वेरी बैकवर्ड टाइम. This is actually to our intellectual detriment. It will make us suffer intellectually. Why? Now the author gives us the why. Not only because it imposes a pernicious presentism. What is pernicious? Pernicious. Yes, what do you say? Very dangerous. Okay, something that is harmful, something that is dangerous. Absolutely. Okay, so a dangerous presentism on the past. See, देखो किसी भी कॉन्सेप्ट के आगे इज़म लगा के ना किसी भी वर्ड के आगे हम उसे कॉन्सेप्ट बना सकते हैं, राइट? प्रेजेंट इज़म, सो प्रेजेंट टुडेज टाइम इज़म ऑन द पास्ट. बट ऑल्सो बिकॉज, तो एक तो ये प्रॉब्लम है उसमें कि हम एक प्रेजेंटिज्म इम्पोज कर रहे हैं पास्ट पर, राइट? But also because it is worth considering whether or not the broader implications of such a ritual, ये जो भी ritual हो रहा था उसका implications है ना. So we need to consider whether they don't have something to tell us about different ways of understanding non-human consciousness. Okay, can I learn something from these trials about non-human consciousness and the rights that our fellow creatures deserve? So there can be lessons in these trials. Now you can attempt this one question based on just this sentence, right? Pernicious presentism. So tell me, what did you understand from this? A says, did anybody mark A? I think somebody marked C because they gave the answer as C. Anybody who marked A? Dismissing animal trials as primitive has the danger of not distinguishing between the past and the present. No, when I'm calling something a backward practice of a primitive time, I am clearly calling it a past time, an old time. So it's not like I'm not able to distinguish. So this option is distorted, right? This is not what is meant by this sentence. Okay, by in fact this phrase. C says, dismissing animal trials as backward imposes. Now we see the word imposes and suddenly we feel बहुत ही friendliness towards this option. Yes, ये होगी perhaps answer. Dismissing animal trials as backward imposes an obligation on the past to behave like the present. Can we tell the past to behave like anything? The past is past. Right? So saying that it imposes an obligation on the past to behave like the present, no. That is not what we can do. We can't do this. We can't obligate the past to anything. It's the past. Right? So this interpretation is a little extreme, I would say. You can't tell the past, behave like the present. However, you can call the past primitive because it is different from the present. Okay? So this is what is happening here. You're calling the past backward. You're calling it primitive. Okay? Because it is different from the present. So thinking of animal trials as backward amounts to interpreting past events in terms of modern values and concepts. That is what you are doing here. You are interpreting the past in terms of modern values and concepts. तभी ऐसा लग रहा ना कि अरे ये तो कितनी backward practice है, क्योंकि आज की values, आज के concepts के हिसाब से वो backward है. Does that make sense? Why B and why not C? So C is a very friendly, superficially friendly option. Okay. I'm hoping. Okay. Now D says thinking of animal trials as primitive amounts to the dangerous thinking that the present will always be superior to the past. Please be wary of such terms. Extreme terms. Will always be superior to the past. No, nothing of this sort has been implied. So this is again extreme. Always तो बहुत broad हो गया. हमारे को तो बस एक केस दिया हुआ है. ठीक है? So far so good. I think I shouldn't have told you the answers in advance. There's less response in the chat box. Okay. Then the author says that, from our metaphysics, then can come our ethics. From our metaphysics, going beyond the physical world, discussing things that are not as objective to be discussed by science. That is metaphysics. So from our metaphysics, for example, consciousness has still not been understood by science, human consciousness, right? So from our metaphysics then can come our ethics, how we should behave. And from our ethics can derive politics and law. तो ऑथर बोल रहे देखो ये इंटेलेक्चुअली बहुत अच्छी एक्सरसाइज है इन ट्रायल्स को देखना, बिकॉज इनसे आप एथिक्स सीख सकते हो, पॉलिटिक्स, लॉ, राइट. That is why the author says that if we dismiss them, that will be to our intellectual detriment. There need not be a return of animals to the stand as defendants. So the author is saying, see, I am not unrealistic. I am not saying कि चलो आज भी ऐसे ट्रायल्स करते हैं, उसमें ना एनिमल्स जो होंगे वो डिफेंडेंट्स होंगे, वो खड़े होंगे कोर्ट के उसमें स्टैंड में. नो, but they have already had legal representations as plaintiffs. So the author is saying that ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं है कि वापस एनिमल्स ही आकर कोर्ट में खड़े हो गए हैं, कटघरे में खड़े हो गए हैं. दैट हैज़ नॉट हैपेंड. बट what has happened is that they have had legal representation as plaintiffs. So somebody has filed a case on their behalf. Okay, they are not standing as defendants today कि उनके ऊपर किसी ने केस कर दिया, जैसे कि रैट्स के ऊपर केस हो गया था, हॉर्स के ऊपर हो गया था, सो के ऊपर हो गया था. अब क्या है कि वो कंप्लेंट कर रहे हैं. Okay, so the non-human rights project led by the US attorney Stephen Wise has filled briefs on behalf of creatures such as the 4 captive chimpanzees, Tommy, Kiko, Hercules and Leo, in New York in 2013. So see, this attorney, he fought a case on behalf of these 4 chimpanzees. And more recently, Happy the elephant, a solitary pachyderm at the Bronx Zoo. Okay, so इसके बिहाफ पर भी एक केस लड़ा है किसने? यूएस अटॉर्नी स्टीवन वाइज ने. बिकॉज इट इज़ अ फिनोमिनन दैट इज न्यूली पर्टिनेंट. ओके, बिकॉज सी दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज न्यूली पर्टिनेंट, इट इज़ न्यूली इम्पॉर्टेंट. It is actually necessary for us to think of the history of animal trials in a more nuanced light. क्योंकि अब हम देख रहे हैं कि अभी भी animal trials अभी हुए हैं recently. So now it is important for us to actually look at this history in a more nuanced light. Okay, beyond the mocking tone in which it can sometimes be discussed. So earlier we used to have a mocking tone towards these. Some may shrug. Now here comes Anila Srivastava's argument. तो इसके बाद हम एक क्वेश्चन और कर पाएंगे. Some may shrug dismissively, drawing from these peculiar events the conclusion that our pre-enlightenment relatives, so basically हमारे जो पहले के relatives थे 16th century, pre-enlightenment is pre-17th century, right? So pre-enlightenment relatives. Enlightenment was a time when, let's say, people became more and more. What happened during enlightenment? Yes, if you have attended the philosophy sessions, you would know. People became more and more rational. People became more and more scientific, right? People discarded, belief in religion. So, questioned, not discarded altogether, but questioned. So, some may shrug dismissively. कुछ लोग कहेंगे कि इन इवेंट से वो ये कंक्लूजन डिराइव करेंगे कि यहाँ इस टाइम के जो लोग थे ना, आर प्री एनलाइटनमेंट रिलेटिव्स, दे वर फंडामेंटली इरैशनल. वो तो भाई इरैशनल थे इस टाइम के लोग. राइट्स द कैनेडियन लॉयर अनिला श्रीवास्तवा. येट शी कंक्लूड्स that the trials demonstrate unexpected ways of thinking about who or what the law acts upon. Who or what the law acts upon. So this is Anila Srivastava's argument, right? Now, the question that was given to you, let's come to this. So मैंने इस क्वेश्चन स्टेम का मीनिंग एक्सप्लेन किया था. हमें इसकी आर्ग्यूमेंट को क्या करना था, स्ट्रेंथन करना था बेसिकली, राइट? सो Anila Srivastava said that people are dismissing it by saying that, our pre-enlightenment relatives were irrational. Yet, that's not really the case. So she's trying to deny this. Yet, that's not really the case, because ये जो trials हैं, ये हमें demonstrate करते हैं ways, unexpected ways of thinking about who or what the law acts upon. So you had to support this idea. Okay? In fact, ये आइडिया यहाँ पर दिया हुआ भी है, that pre-enlightenment animal trials reveal unexpected sophistication in legal thought. Strengthen this. Okay, if I say A, अब 3 जो होंगी वो नहीं strengthen करेंगे ना. So pre-modern legal authorities often ignored animals entirely, treating them strictly as property with no capacity for legal consideration. तो फिर तो ये कुछ ऐसा नहीं demonstrate करेंगे हमें, right? फिर तो वीकन हो गई अनिला श्रीवास्तवा की बात. सो दिस कैन नॉट बी द आंसर. इज दिस क्लियर टू यू? टेल मी. सो इसमें जो बस क्वेश्चन स्टेम था, दैट वाज लेयर्ड. वंस यू अंडरस्टूड दैट, दिस वाज नॉट डिफिकल्ट. C says some contemporaries criticized animal trials as irrational and purely symbolic. So कुछ आज के लोगों ने भी कहा है कि जो एनिमल ट्रायल्स हैं वो इरैशनल थे, प्योरली सिम्बॉलिक थे. दैट मीन्स दे वर नॉट रियली रिवीलिंग एनी अनएक्सपेक्टेड सोफिस्टिकेशन इन लीगल थॉट. तो ये भी उसको अटैक ही कर रहा है, नॉट स्ट्रेंथनिंग इट. डी, legal codes from the period contained explicit provisions granting animals certain protections or recognizing them as participants in legal disputes. Now, between B and D, anybody who marked D Delhi as the answer? Yes. So, D can look like, they were sophisticated. बिकॉज दे हैड एक्सप्लिसिट लीगल कोड्स बने हुए थे, एनिमल्स को प्रोटेक्शन दे रहे थे, उनको पार्टिसिपेंट्स रिकॉग्नाइज कर रहे थे. बट सोफिस्टिकेशन हमें किस में डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करनी है? लीगल थॉट में. ओके, सो थॉट, ये थॉट नहीं है, ये हमें बता रहे हैं उस टाइम कोड्स एग्जिस्ट करते थे, प्रोटेक्शंस थी, राइट? सो दिस ऑन द अदर हैंड शोज दैट जजेस एंड लॉयर्स डिबेटेड द एजेंसी एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. ये अब थॉट की बातें हैं ना. Do animals carry responsibilities? Are they responsible for their own actions? So this is demonstrating sophistication in legal thought. Does that make sense? Why B over D? So B is the answer here, and I think we can now attempt even the third question. The author argues that dismissing animal trials as a primitive practice would be intellectually limiting. Which of the following, if true, would most seriously undermine the author's position? लेकिन कोर्ट्स तो डिबेट्स के बाद आएंगे. ओके, सो बक्सी सेइंग दैट कोर्ट्स भी तो प्रॉब्ली डिस्कशंस का ही प्रोडक्ट हैं. वी हैड डिस्कशंस एंड देन वी डिवेलप्ड दीज लीगल कोड्स. ओके, सो नाउ सी दिस. आई अंडरस्टैंड यू आर सेइंग दैट दे विल परहैप्स कम आफ्टर thought. Okay, however, the idea here is that we are looking at unexpected ways of thinking. So if I am looking at unexpected ways of thinking about who or what the law acts upon, so अगर animals के पास agency ही नहीं है, can the law act upon them? If they don't have responsibilities, can the law act upon them? फिर तो वो responsible ही नहीं है ना किसी भी action के लिए अपने, राइट? सो अनएक्सपेक्टेड वे ऑफ थिंकिंग है ना ये. इमीडिएटली बस ये बोलने के बजाय कि हॉर्स कल्प्रिट है, हमने डिबेट करा पहले कि अच्छा क्या उसके पास एजेंसी है. सो अनएक्सपेक्टेड वे ऑफ थिंकिंग अबाउट शुड आई एक्चुअली पनिश, शुड द कोर्ट रियली पनिश द हॉर्स. दिस इज जस्ट टेलिंग अस दैट ओके, दैट देयर वर सर्टेन प्रोटेक्शंस गिवन टू देम, राइट? देयर वर सर्टेन प्रोटेक्शंस गिवन टू देम. Law acting upon them is not the same as protecting them, right? So protection can be given to people who you think let's say, are they have no agency, they have no responsibility, maybe, but that वो किसी की प्रॉपर्टी है, राइट? एनिमल्स किसी की प्रॉपर्टी है, तो आपने उनको प्रोटेक्शन दे दी. So this is not really about what the law, who or what the law acts upon. This is simply about granting humans certain protections. क्योंकि humans की वो property है, इसलिए उनको भी protections दे दी हमने. But यहाँ पर actually में debate हो रहा है कि क्या हम animals को acquit, accuse, convict कर सकते हैं, नहीं कर सकते. That's why B is superior to D. Okay, so D was a close option, I agree. Does that make sense? All right. Perfect. Thank you. So now अब हमें इसको वीकन करना है, ठीक है? तो हमें इस आइडिया ये बताना है कि अरे कोई इंटेलेक्चुअली लिमिटिंग नहीं होता, इसको ऐसे प्रिमिटिव प्रैक्टिस बोलना, ये कुछ भी इंटेलेक्चुअली इतना ऐड नहीं कर रहे थे. इफ आई से दिस दैट दे वर नॉट रियली एडिंग मच इंटेलेक्चुअली दीज अर्लियर ट्रायल्स, देन आई हैव एक्चुअली वीकन दिस आर्ग्यूमेंट. सो इफ यू मार्क बी एज द आंसर, modern research shows that most animals lack self-awareness, undermining the notion of their consciousness being comparable to humans. So is this weakening the importance of these trials? Tell me that trials इतने intellectually stimulating नहीं थे. Is this focused on the trials, or is this focused on animals having self-awareness or not having self-awareness, having consciousness or not having consciousness? तो ये तो ट्रायल्स पर फोकस्ड ही नहीं है. दिस इज़ अ डिस्ट्रैक्टर. ये आपको डिस्ट्रैक्ट करने के लिए डाली है ऑप्शन, बस. ये ट्रायल्स पर फोकस्ड ही नहीं है. ओके, नाउ इन केस यू मार्क्ड डी, दैट मीन्स यू रेड जस्ट दिस पार्ट ऑफ द आर्ग्यूमेंट, नॉट द लैटर पार्ट, दिस पार्ट ऑफ द ऑप्शन. ठीक है, वो कह रहा है कि ये सीमिंगली इरैशनल था. सी, सीमिंगली इरैशनल एंड इरैशनल में डिफरेंस है कि लगता तो था कि वो इरैशनल है, बट दे वर एक्चुअली वेरी वेरी इंटीग्रल, अ फंडामेंटल पार्ट ऑफ देयर वर्ल्ड व्यू. सो दे वर नॉट रियली इरैशनल फॉर देम. सो इफ यू हैव मार्क्ड डी, दैट मीन्स यू हैव नॉट पेड अटेंशन टू द वर्ड सीमिंगली और ये बाद वाला पार्ट. ठीक है, एलिमिनेटेड. Then C says, evidence suggests that in many animal trials, verdicts were predetermined, making the legal process symbolic rather than substantive. Okay, so even if it is symbolic, it is symbolizing something, no? Whether animals have agency or not, yeah? Whether animals have responsibility or not, it could symbolize this. Then what should our ethics be towards animals? It could symbolize, it could be we could have these symbolic discussions. Or what is the role of law? So even if it is symbolic, it still matters. Okay, it can still be intellectually stimulating, I hope, because यहाँ पर वो recognize कर रहा ऑथर खुद ही कि हाँ, it was a ritual, it was symbolic. Rituals तो होते ही symbolic हैं. So even if it is symbolic, it can still have intellectual implications. But अगर वो ये सब कोई इंक्वायरी के लिए होते ही नहीं थे, बट merely as entertainment for rural communities, तो फिर तो इतना उनको डिसमिस करना intellectually limiting नहीं होगा. Hence A. I think this one was easy. Okay, so this one you could have got correct. So exam में you should be aware of this. So for example, this question I felt was easy. Okay, and apart from this, I think even this one was doable. Okay, if you understood what Foucault was saying, right? So 2 out of 4 questions are always doable. Maybe these 2 are different for you, different for me, but 2 out of 4 doable होते हैं. ठीक है, अब आ जाए लास्ट पैराग्राफ पे. So we are just left with the part about Foucault's argument. Just a second, but predetermined लिखा है. Okay. So फिर intellectually कैसे हो? उससे भी हो गया, उससे भी हो सकता है. Good questions, Bugsy uncle. See, all right. So let's say for every animal trial that happens, for every animal trial that happens, the verdict was predetermined कि animals को तो हम forgive कर ही देंगे. Let's say ये predetermined है verdict, that no matter what kind of a case happens, we will forgive the animals, right? So, however, we will charge the owner with something. Owner को penalty देंगे या owner को कुछ देंगे, right? Let's say owner को penalty लगेगी in case the animal was a defendant. Defendant मतलब उसके against case हुआ है. तो अब हर किसी केस में ये verdict आएगा. Let's say ये predetermined है. Even then, is it not revealing something to you that the people of that time, they thought that, see, because animals, they are perhaps helpless, they can't act, so they were always forgiven. It tells you something about the ethics. However, people can be charged because they have agency, they can earn money, so they can be charged with penalties. So even if the verdict is predetermined, even if the process is just symbolic, it can still help you to debate on these questions. However, if this was just for entertainment, for rural communities, then how will it help you to debate on these questions of ethics, of metaphysics? Right? Good. You're really going into the depth of questions, which is how we should tackle them. ठीक है, ऐसे ही टैकल करने चाहिए हमें ऑप्शंस, ऐसे ही एलिमिनेट करना चाहिए. गुड. Okay, now the last paragraph. Animal trials also provide an indication, not just about unexpectedly expansive legal reasoning, unexpectedly expansive legal reasoning. So, एनिमल ट्रायल्स से हमें ये पता चलता है कि जो लीगल रीजनिंग है ना, वो बहुत, उसका जो एम्बिट है वो बहुत बड़ा है, उसका स्कोप बहुत बड़ा है. इट्स अनएक्सपेक्टेडली एक्सपेंसिव, बट दे ऑल्सो प्रोवाइड अस विद एन इंडिकेशन. They provide us a metaphysical position about the similarities between human and animal consciousness that is superior to the Cartesian position, okay, that reduced dogs and cats, pigs and cows to intricate mechanisms. Okay, what does this mean? Again, very long sentence. So, they provide us a metaphysical position. Animal trials say we can now take a position about the similarities between human and animal consciousness, right? कि humans ज़्यादा conscious हैं या animals ज़्यादा conscious हैं. It can help us to take a stand. Okay, what are the similarities, what are the differences, that is superior to the Cartesian position. अब ये क्या बला है? That is superior to the Cartesian position. So this is actually talking about the philosopher Descartes. Okay, so now René Descartes was a French philosopher who talked about something called duality, the body-mind duality. So Descartes said that just like the mind is superior to body, yes, mind is superior to matter. That was again Descartes' views. मेरे views नहीं है, Descartes के थे. ठीक है. Similarly, see, because human beings, they possess a superior mind. Okay, they possess a superior. They possess consciousness. Animals, they don't possess any consciousness. So they are just matter. So for Descartes, they were as good as non-living beings. Okay, they were like objects for Descartes. So humans superior to animals, just like mind over matter, humans over animals. So और ये ना widely accepted हो गई जब Descartes ने ये concept दिया. So now the author is saying that if I look at such animal trials, it can help me to form views that are more nuanced than this, humans greater than animals. It can help me to form views that are superior to such, very, very oversimplified views, very myopic, narrow views. Okay, so it can help me to find out a position that is superior to the Cartesian position that reduced dogs and cats, pigs and cows to just mechanisms like clockwork, right? बिल्कुल एक non-living object का mechanism. In Discipline and Punish, Michel Foucault explains how pre-modern legal proceedings were not necessarily intended to reduce crime or even to punish. क्या लग रहा है इसका पर्पस ये होगा कि हॉर्सेस आगे से क्राइम ना करें, ये वाले जो केसेस हैं? नॉट एट ऑल. The purpose of such cases was not this, that I want to prevent horses from committing a crime, I want to prevent sows or rats from committing a crime. So Foucault argued this. Foucault is a philosopher that you must know at least in brief about, ठीक है? He talks a lot about power relations in the society. So Foucault ने बोला कि इन लीगल प्रोसीडिंग्स का ये पर्पस नहीं होता था कि क्राइम रिड्यूस हो जाए या हमें पनिश करना है हॉर्सेस को, बट दैट दे आर बेटर अंडरस्टूड एज अ political ritual. They were a political ritual. If you notice, this word ritual has been repeated time and again as being among the ceremonies by which power is manifested. और कुछ नहीं तो ये तो शो हो ही रहा था ना कि सोसाइटी में लॉ की अथॉरिटी है. यस, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की अथॉरिटी है. सो दीज वर जस्ट सेरेमनीज बाय विच पावर इज मैनिफेस्टेड. In trying a group of rats for eating crops, there was never an assumption that the rodents would somehow learn their lesson, for the trial wasn't held for them, but rather for the humans who witnessed the spectacle. The tamasha, right? So the humans who witnessed the spectacle. Now, ironically then, the exoneration, forgiveness, pardon. Ironically then, their forgiveness, their pardon, as secured by their defense lawyer tells us something surprising about what authorities believed concerning animal agency and interiority, consciousness and personhood. Right? So ironically, वो ट्रायल पूरा एनिमल्स के लिए था ही नहीं, वो ह्यूमंस के लिए था. सो दिस टेल्स अस समथिंग. उनका जो पार्डन है, ऑल्दो उनको फॉरगिव कर दिया एनिमल्स को, बट इट टेल्स अस समथिंग अबाउट द बिलीफ ऑफ दीज अथॉरिटीज कंसर्निंग एनिमल एजेंसी. एक्चुअली में ज़्यादा बिलीव था नहीं उनका एनिमल एजेंसी में, इजंट इट? बिकॉज पूरा का पूरा जो शो था वो ह्यूमंस के लिए था. इट्स नॉट लाइक दे वर एक्सपेक्टिंग टू रिड्यूस एनिमल क्राइम और इवन टू पनिश एनिमल्स. दैट मीन्स दे डिडंट रियली बिलीव अ लॉट इन एनिमल एजेंसी, एनिमल पर्सनहुड. राइट? सो दैट्स द आयरनी, दैट एक ऐसा ट्रायल जिसमें एनिमल्स को फॉरगिवनेस मिल रही है लीगल प्रोसेस के थ्रू, वो उनके लिए नहीं था. वो रादर ये बिलीव शो करता है कि एनिमल्स की तो एजेंसी में नहीं बिलीव करती थी अथॉरिटीज एज सच, पर्सनहुड में नहीं बिलीव करती थी एज सच. राइट? सो दिस वॉज द पैसेज. वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एंड ऑल्सो इट वॉज लेयर्ड इन द सेंस कि थोड़ी सी डेप्थ थी पैसेज में. एंड नाउ लेट्स कम टू ये वाला क्वेश्चन. राइट? द पैसेज cites Foucault to argue that animal trials okay, just a second, I am just a little, okay, my mind was in two places. So the passage cites Foucault to argue that animal trials should be understood as political rituals rather than genuine efforts at deterrence. Okay, deterrence means to deter people from committing crime, उनको डराना, उनको रोकना क्राइम करने से. ओके, तो ये एफर्ट, ये उनका पर्पस नहीं था. उनका पर्पस वाज दे वर जस्ट पॉलिटिकल रिचुअल्स. ओके, the ceremonies by which power is manifested. So here I think, for answering this question, for strengthening Foucault's argument, reading the context really helps. Okay, so read this context यहाँ से यहाँ तक and this will help you. Those who marked A. Records from early modern Europe show that animal trials were conducted with full legal formalities, including defense lawyers and cross-examination of witnesses. तो ये जो फॉर्मेलिटी है, आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट यू मस्ट हैव सीन द वर्ड सेरेमनी और लगा होगा, अरे ये सेरेमनी सी तो लग रही है, इफ़ वी आर डूइंग दिस इज़ लाइक अ फुल फ्लेज्ड सेरेमनी, फुल लीगल फॉर्मेलिटीज, डिफेंस लॉयर्स. बट द सेरेमनीज आर अबाउट हाउ पावर इज मैनिफेस्टेड थ्रू रिचुअल्स, पावर बींग मैनिफेस्टेड. ठीक है? सो इफ यू लुक एट B is saying villagers who witnessed animal trials often reported feeling reassured about the authority of law and order. So power, law and order अपनी बस power assert कर रहा था in political rituals के through. Okay, rather than actually crime reduce करने की कोशिश animals का या punishment animals को देने की. Regardless of the verdict, if people are feeling reassured, that means they are feeling कि कोई है हमारे ऊपर एक पावर है लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की जो सब देख लेगी अगर कुछ रॉन्ग होता है सोसाइटी में, चाहे अभी इसका एनिमल ट्रायल का कुछ भी वर्डिक्ट आया, उससे मैटर नहीं करता. सो दैट मीन्स दे वर नॉट रियली मेंट फॉर डेटरेंस, टू पनिश एनिमल्स, टू रिड्यूस क्राइम. Does that make sense? It is capturing both the aspects. The ceremony by which power is manifested and not aimed at deterrence. Make sense? Why not A? This is important. Okay. It is not really telling me about the authority, the power wala aspect, okay? C says in some cases animals sentenced to death were executed publicly. Okay, so this is actually discussing deterrence, not the political ritual part of it. But reports suggest that similar crimes by animals continued unabated, continued without any reduction. So this is, you are saying here that you know what, it was not resulting in deterrence. उससे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा था एनिमल्स को, क्राइम हो रहे थे, बट आपने ये कहाँ दिखाया कि उसका पर्पस ही ये नहीं था कि वो क्राइम डेटर करे. उसका पर्पस तो ये था कि वो ये दिखाए कि पावर किसके हाथों में सोसाइटी में, राइट. सो एलिमिनेटेड. एंड excellent Mahesh, excellent, then you were on the right track. Prominent philosophers in the Enlightenment period such as Descartes criticized animal trials as irrational and unscientific. So this is just telling us that they were saying that they were irrational, they were unscientific. So is it telling me how they were a political ritual or how they were aimed at deterrence? ये तो unrelated सा लग रहा है. Okay, so this is unrelated. D Delhi. It is a discussion that comes here, not in this discussion. Clear to you? आया मज़ा इस passage में? So I feel that I shouldn't have revealed the answers earlier because some of you just listened to the answers and not the rationale as to why your answers might have been correct or not. Okay, which is not a healthy approach towards attempting RC passages. ठीक है, so I hope this taught you something. You can tell me what the scores were like, how many you got correct. This will give me an idea of the difficulty level. Okay, and I will bring you more such RC passages, more VA questions in this series. Okay, any questions? All right then, this is it from my end. I will see you next time. Bye bye.